Welcome back to Marcus English Stories channel, where we learn English through simple and clear stories. This is the story of Sony, a small company that grew into a famous name in the world of technology and entertainment. It all began in Tokyo, Japan, after a very difficult time in the country. The year was 1946, and people were tired. Two young men, Masaru Ibuka and Akio Morita, met and decided to start a small shop that would help people with new ideas. They had a plan to make good tools and new machines that could bring joy and help to many people. They worked in a small room with a few tools and little money, but they had big dreams. At first, they named their company Tokyo Tsushin Kogyo, which means Tokyo Telecommunications Engineering Corporation. They chose this name because they wanted to make things that used sound and small electric parts. The first years were very hard. They had to fix radios and build small devices from parts they could find. One of their first products was a small tape recorder. This machine could record people's voices on a long strip of tape. It was not perfect, but it was useful for schools and small offices. The tape recorder gave the founders hope. They felt they could make more things that people would want. In 1955, the company changed its name to Sony. The name Sony was easy to say in many languages. It came from the Latin word sonus, which means sound, and the English word sonny, which means a young boy. The founders wanted a name that sounded friendly and modern. Sony was short and strong. With a new name, the company began to grow. Sony made a small radio called the TR-55. This radio used new parts and a new way of building, so it was small and worked well. People liked it because they could carry it from room to room. Sony kept trying new ideas. In 1957, they made the TR-63, an even smaller radio that became very popular. These radios helped Sony to sell more machines and to hire more people. In the 1960s, Sony did something new and bold. They wanted to change the way people listened to music. At that time, music players were big and heavy. Sony made a small portable tape recorder, the Walkman, in 1979, but the idea of small personal music players grew from years of work. Before the Walkman, Sony worked on many small electronic parts and learned how to make things smaller and light. The Walkman became a symbol of personal freedom. People could carry their music and listen with headphones while walking, traveling, or working. It made music private and easy to enjoy. The Walkman changed the lives of many people around the world. Sony did not stop at music. The company wanted to bring new images to homes. In the 1960s and 1970s, Sony worked on television technology. They made televisions with better picture quality and clearer sound. Sony also made good record players, amplifiers, and other home devices. In 1975, Sony entered the camera market with new ideas. They helped make cameras that were easier to use for regular people. One big change came when Sony worked with other companies to build new kinds of video recorders and players. This led to the creation of formats like Betamax. Betamax was a way to record television shows on tape so people could watch them later. Though Betamax was a good system, a different format called VHS became more common in many places. Even when Sony lost some format battles, the company learned from its mistakes and kept making better products. In the 1980s and 1990s, Sony became a world brand. People saw the Sony name on many kinds of products: radios, televisions, cameras, tape players, and many more. Sony joined art and business. It began to make movies, music, and games. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, Sony made large moves into entertainment by adding music and film businesses to its work. This move meant Sony was not only a maker of machines, but also a maker of entertainment. Sony Music signed many popular singers and bands, and Sony Pictures made movies that reached large audiences. The company also entered the video game world. In 1994, Sony released the PlayStation, a game console that changed the way people play video games at home. PlayStation had strong graphics and many fun games. It made Sony a leader in games and brought a new group of fans to the Sony family. Through the years, Sony tried to mix style and technology. Its products often had a clean look and easy controls. Design became as important as function. Customers liked products that looked good on their shelves and were easy to use. Sony opened stores around the world, and the logo with the simple letters SONY became known in many countries. The company also faced hard times. As the market changed, new companies from other countries started to make cheap and good electronics. Sometimes Sony's prices were higher than the new competitors, and sales fell. The company had to change. Many leaders came and went, each with a plan to return Sony to strong growth. They focused on new technology and on cutting costs, but they also wanted to keep Sony's creative heart. In the 2000s, Sony moved into digital technology. Compact discs, CDs, and then digital music changed the music world. Sony helped create the CD with partners, and later it moved into digital cameras and high-quality music players. Mobile phones became important too, and Sony made many models with good cameras and screens. But the world moved fast. New phones and new brands challenged Sony. The company sold many parts of its business and focused on areas where it could be strong: games, music, movies, and sensors for cameras. In recent years, Sony has become a leader in image sensors, the small parts that help cameras see more clearly. Many other companies buy Sony sensors for their phones and cameras because Sony makes very good sensors. Sony's PlayStation remained a strong star. New versions of the PlayStation continued to bring big sales and strong fan support. Sony Pictures and Sony Music also kept making stories, songs, and movies that people enjoyed around the world. Beyond products, Sony worked to be a good company in its communities. Sony also invested in new technologies like robotics, artificial intelligence, and new types of displays. From the first small repair shop to a global company, Sony's path showed how creativity and hard work can build new chances. The story of Sony is not only a list of products, but also a story of people who tried new things, who took risks, and who wanted to bring better life to many others. Masaru Ibuka and Akio Morita started with hope and curiosity, and they left a mark on the world. Today, the Sony name still stands for quality and new ideas for many people. It is a reminder that a small start, guided by good ideas and steady work, can grow into something that touches millions. Over the decades, Sony built many factories and research centers. Engineers and designers worked day and night to solve hard problems. One famous product was the Trinitron television. It gave brighter colors and a clearer picture than many other sets. People who wanted a good image chose Trinitron. Sony did not only make devices, it worked with artists, musicians, and filmmakers to create new content. The company learned that a good story and a good machine work well together. Sony Music helped many singers to find their voice. Sony Pictures helped directors to bring stories to the screen. This mix of art and technology became a part of Sony's identity. At the same time, Sony learned the value of small parts and strong quality. The company spent money on research and on training its workers. Young engineers were given chances to try new ideas and to fail and learn. Sony cared about design. The company often chose simple shapes and clean lines. They wanted products that people could hold and feel proud of. In stores, Sony products often stood out because they looked simple and modern.
This look helped Sony to build a loyal group of customers, yet the path was not smooth. In the 1990s and 2000s, new companies from South Korea and China began to make strong, low-cost electronics. Many customers started to buy these cheaper goods. Sony had to change how it worked. It closed some factories and sold some parts of its business. These moves were painful, and many employees left or moved to other jobs. But Sony still had strong parts. The PlayStation brand kept selling well because gamers wanted the latest games and strong hardware. Sony's image sensors were in demand because mobile makers wanted better cameras. Sony's work in cameras led to small and light cameras that gave excellent pictures. Many photographers trusted Sony for sharp images and fast focus. Sony also pushed forward in new areas like digital sound and portable music players. It tried new formats like mini-disc, which was a small disc for music. Some people loved mini-disc, but it never became as common as the CD. The company always tried to learn from both wins and losses. When a product did not win the market, Sony studied why and tried again with a new plan. Another key point in Sony's story is its global reach. Sony opened offices in the United States, Europe, and many parts of Asia. Local teams learned what people in each place wanted. This global view helped Sony to make products for many needs. For example, Sony made TVs with features for one country and camera models for another. Sony also learned the power of partnerships. It worked with other companies to share ideas, build parts, and set new standards. Partnerships helped Sony to move faster and to bring new products to market. Over time, Sony changed the way it made money. At first, it sold many small consumer products like radios and tape players. Later, it grew into music, movies, and gaming. Today, a big part of Sony's income comes from services, online game services, music streaming, movies, and sales of camera sensors to other makers. These services give steady income and new chances for growth. They also connect Sony to many people who use its products every day. Sony has also faced criticism. Some people said Sony was slow to follow trends. Others said it spent too much money on projects that did not pay off. These problems forced Sony to rethink its plans and to try new ways to work. In recent years, Sony tried to be faster and more open to new ideas. It made smaller, flexible teams that could move quickly. It also worked with startups and new partners to find fresh ideas. Sony's leaders spoke often about the need to keep creativity alive while being good at business. The balance between art and profit has been a theme in many meetings and plans. Even as a large company, Sony tried to keep its founding spirit, curiosity, courage, and a wish to make life better. The story of Sony shows how a company can change with the world and still keep its heart. Many people remember Sony for its early radios and the Walkman, but the company is more than these icons. It is an organization of many workers, from designers to factory hands to software writers, all working to make things that matter. To students and young people, Sony's history can teach a few lessons. Small ideas can grow big if people work together and stay curious. Failure is a part of learning. Good design and a focus on quality can make a brand strong. From music players that fit in a bag to game systems that connect millions of players, Sony's work touched daily life in many ways. In sound and sight, in stories and play, Sony left a clear mark on the modern world. Even now, the company keeps moving. New technologies like virtual reality, cloud gaming, and smarter cameras are on Sony's roadmap. These new steps show that Sony still wants to make the future, not just the past. Looking back, the story of Sony is long and full of lessons. It began with two men in a small room, and it grew into a company that taught the world how to listen, see, and play. This is the story of effort, of change, and of the wish to bring people better ways to enjoy sound and pictures. Thank you for listening to the story of Sony. I hope this long story helped you learn new words and gave you simple ideas to think about. Come back soon for more stories on Marcus English Stories channel, where every story helps you learn a little more English each time.